everyone, so I am going to be going over Bashini, and one of the reasons going over Bashini is kind of like a couple other characters I've gone over. I feel like he's gotten a little bit of a bad rap in Global, so I am here today to explain to you why Bashini is an absolute monster of a unit. So, let's take a look at his Kaigan. So unfortunately, my Bashini is not as Kaigan as I would like him to be. His frags are hard to get, but if you can get a hold of them, he is an absolute joy to have on your squad. You want 5 in the gate 1, and this is more important on Bashini than maybe other characters because he really needs the HP because he is rather squishy. For gate 2, his evade passive will be upgraded to give him additional 25% physical attack. And I would not suggest maxing his gate 3. You do want to take it to 4 though, because he is an evade unit. And his Kaigan leader skill is 50% HP, 10% attack, and 10% all defense. So there are just better Kaigan leader skills that you can run the Bashinis, and his shards are hard to get, so getting an additional 40 shards to max out gate 3 is more than a little than what I want to spend gem-wise, I suppose, and sin-wise. So Bashini does have his own Nensou, and his Nensou is incredibly good. Now, this Nensou was not released with his Kaigan. This came much later during the Attack on Titan collab, but the Nensou is in the general pool and it's not limited to the collab or anything. That's just happened to be when it came around. And the base stats on it is speed, and he already has a lot of speed, as I'm sure you already know, so a little more never hurts, especially with his scaling on speed. He has 258 HP to desert units. And so this second skill group here, I don't think I've really gone over any Nensous that work like this. On some of the Nensous, there is a character who wields the Nensou, and then there's a group of units that get the benefits from the Nensou, but the character using the Nensou doesn't get any of the benefits. And that would be the case for this group here, where Logi, Diaz, Zeke, Bado, and Victor get 49 attack, 40 defense, and 7 light resistance. And Bashini does not get any of that, but if you do happen to have them in the same party, those are really good stats. For the last skill group here, we have 3 speed, 4 jewel gain, and 7 slash damage, and that is Bashini's group, and only Bashini's group. So those are really nice stats to have, and you're definitely going to want to get dupes of this if you can to raise that, because as I'm sure we all know at this point, Bashini's jewel gain is absolutely atrocious. However, this Nensou does more than a little to fix that, and we're going to see that in his vision abilities. So there are 2 vision abilities, and I'll go into depth on what they do in the map itself. So let's take a look at his other gear. So I'm going to start with his VCR, because his VCR doesn't seem like it's that good until you actually understand what it does. So the stats on this is 400 HP, 40 stop resistance, and 5 evade, which, let's be honest with ourselves, it's not super great. I mean, regen armor has 431 HP and gives you auto regen. What makes the VCR so great? Well, what makes it great is that since he got the VCR, his own swords have become best in slot on him again. And his swords, I'm sure you already know, give 20 attack, 8 speed, and 30 crit. But when combined with the VCR, will actually increase the damage output from the weapon ability on these swords. So when you use the weapon ability with these swords, it'll do more damage and give you more agility until your next turn. So your next turn will come even faster. And Bashini's already super fast, so that's pretty nice. But there's another benefit. When you use these swords together with the VCR, when you're on the map, you will get a 40 attack, 40 dex, and 5 speed buff. So Bashini has kind of low physical attack, that's why you need the gate 2 in order to output the really big numbers. But getting that extra 40 physical attack when he has his charge up on his sub, it's going to equate to like an extra 100 or so physical attack after the charge up. So, as I'm sure you understand, every bit of attack he gets is a great boost to have. So, for the last item, there's a couple things that you can put here, but I prefer Teddy. The reason I prefer Teddy is because even though the VCR does some things to fix his jewel gain, it's still not stellar. Teddy gives you 15 jewel gain when it's 5-star, and gives him a little bit more bulk with some extra Ellie resistance. Ellie resistance isn't as powerful as it used to be, but it's still a good thing to have. It'll at least take the edge off of some attacks and maybe let him survive another attack. Other things you might run, you could run the crit pendant like you would on other multi-hit crit characters, because he is a multi-hit crit character. 20 critical rate is never a bad thing. 10 speed will give him an additional 2 speed from his swords, and 50 dex. I don't even think he uses it as an attack formula, but at least he'll miss less, right? There really isn't many other things that I'd suggest using on him, to be honest. Like, you could use the Bunny VCR, but really the stats on this just aren't that great, and they don't really help his damage at all, and he just really doesn't get anything from it, so why even bother? On some stages, you might need to run the Fujiga VCR for some explicit reason, but it's just not part of his main kit like other things are. If you do not have his VCR, however, there's nothing wrong with running the Scarf for an extra 10 evade. He will have a little more evade with the Scarf than he would the VCR, but I don't suggest using the Scarf with the VCR. 5 evade is just not worth losing the jewel gain over. And Saint Meteors is always a great option if you have it, if you have nothing else to use. For his loadout, for PvE purposes, I would suggest using his unique main and his Holy Brawler sub. Use his Perfect Evasion reactive, and use his speed up but jewel gain down passive with the Feint passive. And the Feint passive is what's going to be upgraded in the Gate 2. So you're going to be running this regardless once you have Gate 2. If you don't have him Kaigan, definitely run his HP leaders or HP passive instead. Because Bashini's already a squishy unit. He gets a lot out of the Gate 1. And if you just don't have that Gate 1, I think he's just too squishy to run Feint. It's just way too risky. If you're doing PvP, definitely run his unique sub, because it's got clock stop on there, and it's just better for PvP purposes. And also for PvP purposes, you might be able to run the Wrath Blades instead, which I believe will let him use his 50 jewel attack on turn 1. So let's go ahead and jump into a map and see what Bashini is capable of. So to try to save a little bit of time, I'm not going to run him with and without a leader skill today, because I feel like my videos have already been kind of long. But what I will do is I'm going to try to remember to turn some animations on every once in a while, just because I've been getting a lot of requests for animations. So I figured maybe turn them on, see how it works. Japan runs on like 3 or 4 times speed now, so its animations are going to be really quick, and they're going to go by really fast. And I don't really want to turn it down because it's already kind of slow. And I'd like a shout out to Will today, who is letting me borrow his Bashini and has it all set up for me. So let's go ahead, and I will actually run him with a goal leader skill today. I like to maximize Bashini's damage when I use him, because Bashini is a true boss shredder. Like, he just makes mincemeat of bosses. So one of the major differences is this 8 jewel attack right here, and it has 3 casts, so you do not want to just use this willy-nilly. But as you can see, it's going to do damage, and it's going to drain jewels. So this is the reason why Bashini is just a lot nicer to use with his Nensou. He's now up to 88 jewels. That's enough to charge up and use his 50 jewel nuke, his 50 jewel single target ranged nuke, right after the first turn. And normally you'd have to go up and hit someone to use that, and now you can just get them from a range. So you don't have to like jeopardize Bashini's health just to gather jewels. That's massive. So let's go ahead and charge up. And now let's take a look at what he's capable of. So his kit has not changed at all. He hasn't had like any updates to his kit. But his first attack, we're looking at almost 10k damage. And that's before it even crits. Remember, all of Bashini's skills can crit. So all the numbers you see are just the lowest amount of damage that he can do. Almost 10k, and that's with a charge up on his lowest end attack. Normally, you would use his 50 joule attack, or you'd use an AoE to spread the love, right? You just want to spread the love a little. With a 7.3k cross AoE. 5k on other units that aren't light. You know, his other cross does the same amount of damage, but then we get this. 13k on a neutral unit, and 18k on a light unit. That's right, 18k, and that is the lowest damage he will ever do on a light unit. Because he's always going to get at least one crit. Almost all the time, he gets at least one crit. And for his final trick, he has one more brand new attack from his Nensou. And that's this AoE. Like, look at the size of this thing. Like, it's huge. There is no other attack with this sort of AoE in the game right now. And just having Bashini's Nensou means that you can use this 8 joule attack and this 60 joule AoE on any unit. Because they're tied to the Nensou, they're not tied to the VCR. And pretty much all Nensou skills that aren't buffs can be used by anyone of any region who's just using the Nensou. Yeah, this thing is huge, and unfortunately we can't see the damage, and I don't really want to just blow all his jewels. Well, actually, I guess I can. I can always come back in. Let's see what it does. So there you have it. That's Bashini. He is just an insane unit. Like, I really can't give enough praise to him. He is so powerful. It's unfortunate that he kind of has the bad rap, and I've even seen some Japanese resources not, like, put him as, like, the top dark unit, but Bashini is, like, top 3 easily, like, strongest dark units, period. Like, I just don't know how you can compare with this guy. He's absolutely insane. If you also want to, another trick you can do, if you charge up first and then you use his jewel drain attack, you can drain even more jewels. But I honestly think that's a waste of a charge up, but it's something you can do. There's all sorts of things you can do with his kit here. He's just an absolute monster. He shreds people. Now, the one thing you do have to remember, Bashini is a little bit squishy. Even with all his evade, because Bashini is a major evade unit. He stacks evade. He stacks a lot of evade. I forget how much, but it's like somewhere between 30 to 50. I think it's like 40 to 50 or something. But the point is like Bolt, he's hard to hit. But unlike Bolt, he just doesn't get as much access to HP that Bolt has. There's only one Dark Forecaster, and she's a collab unit. So it's not like Bolt where I can just run Neferti in my party and just up Bolt's base HP and then rely on regen armor. Because Bashini doesn't run regen armor either. When Bashini takes damage, he takes damage. So this is not an auto unit. Like, Bashini works on auto in Japan, but if you actually want Bashini to be the monster that he is, you gotta run him on manual. Because his kit is very manual centric. It has a very specific pattern. He collects jewels, he charges up, he nukes. And if he doesn't do that, he just isn't operating effectively as the charge up nuker that he is. That's just a fact. It's unfortunate, but the good news is if you have Bashini built and you go and take him into a high-end map, he is going to wreck face. Yeah, I mean, I really haven't been talking up units as much as I probably should. Specifically, like, Euros. Like, I don't think I really talked to her about how powerful she is enough. But Bashini is just... I think Bashini, if you actually compare the numbers, Bashini in raw power, I believe, is more powerful than Euros. Euros is in a different element, of course. The reason Euros is so astronomically strong is because the water element suffers a lot more than the dark element does. So if you're free to play and you can't afford Bashini, Jin, Gull, Rosa, Arbor or Abea, these are all great units. If you get the Attack on Titan collab, Levi can pull out some insane damage at just level 75. I mean, I'm not saying that Bashini is like this must-have unit that everyone needs to have in their back pocket or they can't play the game. What I'm saying is, if you can find a way to get Bashini up as high as he needs to be as successful as he can be, do it. He is every bit worth chasing. His Nensou, like, you gotta remember that the Nensou I was using was, I don't know if Will has his Nensou max limit break or not, but my Nensou still has way more stats it can gain. Like, if I can go in here real quick and pull this up, it doesn't look like I can pull it up from this menu, and I don't want to go into the other menus to pull it up, but there's still way more stats he can get out of it. He can still, my Bashini can still get more powerful, and my Bashini easily hits like 15k, and he's only 520. So there's really just no excuse. If you have to frag your Bashini to 85 to Kaigan him, I think it's worth. I honestly think it's worth doing that. He's probably the strongest dark SSM unit. I think he's better than Kuden, because I think Kuden can probably nuke for higher damage, but the thing is Kudenstein just, I don't feel like, has the same kind of level of utility that Bashini has on a map, and he definitely doesn't have Bashini's 200 plus speed. You know, Bashini in Japan is working with over 200 speed easily. And if you have a Bolt Nensou in the same party on a desert unit, like if you were running Aswad with a Bolt Nensou, he could do even more damage. You could just literally use Aswad as a buff mule and buff Bashini with Aswad, and then give him like an additional 15 speed, along with 50 damage mod. You know, so that's really all I have to say on Bashini today. If you have any questions about him, feel free to ask in the comments. And thanks for watching as always. I hope to see you next time.